We have been here for 3 days now, 2.5, and I think we had very good discussions here. It was a nice set of hours of exchange. I'm really pleased by the number of people who have accepted the invitation who are here. Some have traveled very far to come to the meeting. Thank you for that. Some of you have gone through some logistical difficulties. We appreciate your patience and your graciousness and your understanding. This was a set of rich debates and a lot of lessons for us to follow through once we leave here. Madam Commissioner, the Director, Zena, my own DG Schengen, and the representative of the DGs who are around here, all the permanent secretaries and directors, starting with Director Abebe and his team. This was an amazing meeting. Thank you to the African Union Commission for everything you've done to make it possible. It was at a time when you really had so many things that you had to do. But again, we're not surprised. That's the kind of leadership we've been getting from here over the years. The dedication and the perseverance to move the kind of agenda forward. Thank you for all of that. Thank you to our own team who have also worked very hard to make this possible. I would like to just review some of the take-home for us, particularly for those, I think, for the broader audience. We, as we do during this meeting, have looked at the core indicators of credit, what the African leaders through the African Union and the NEPA Secretariat have decided that they wanted to be judged by in terms of making progress, those 20 core indicators. We presented them here, and what we saw is encouraging. The progress that has taken place in Africa over the last 10, 15, 20 years is continuing. The outlook is positive. Yes, we can be satisfied by any progress just because we really have lost several decades through crisis, through instability, through social strife, through world market, through our own political and policy mistakes. But people who think like I do would have seen us as nothing but, a growing pain. Our countries were barely, government 50, 60 years old. It's not much in the life of the nation. But we have come out of those difficulties. But the difficulties is they leave behind a huge burden, huge gaps that we have to fill in terms of growth, in terms of welfare for our people, in terms of trade, in terms of infrastructure. So yes, we had a couple of nice decades, but we're not satisfied enough. We're encouraged by that, we're not satisfied. And that's what the indicators show. We're moving forward, but we're quite a bit to do. In particular, it's really the quality of action that will matter. Dr. Abeba has talked about it in different ways, in different forms. And we heard it also here from Commissioner Atuga from COMESA, from ECOWAS. So the quality of action is going to allow us to sustain the progress of the last 2 decades, but also even broaden and expand it. And that's where our efforts, our partnership with the African Union and PCA and the regional communities and all of you here, that's where our effort really comes into play. So helping improve the quality of action on the ground and therefore improve the outcomes of the development process. We talked about trade in particular because it was the topic of this year's AITO. Again, it's been a long time since Africa had strong trade performance indicators. Yes, we were in many sectors the king of the global markets. I remember how I used to tease my American friends about how Senegal dominated the oil seeds in Ghana markets, before that Nigeria and Gambia, and coffee, cocoa, tea, and so on and so forth. So that was in the 60s. Now we're starting to see African countries becoming more competitive gaining market share, reversing the loss of global market share decline. All those are really trending in the right direction. The scale is not where we want it to be, but it's just encouraging. We have seen African countries expanding intra-trade regionally at the African continental level. Again, very refreshing. So if we keep on going in the right direction, I think that will be quite important for us. And that's where efforts like ReSAKSS can help understand what are the drivers of the recent changes. Where are the success factors? What can we learn from that? Because development, again, is nothing else but knowing what works and repeating it and expanding it and adapting it. Basically, where are your repeatable success models? And we're trying to develop the learning processes to have that within Canada. We talked about supporting regional accountability processes, both in terms of the capacity, technical and institutional, as well as the processes. We talked about, in that context, the strategic analysis and knowledge support system platforms at the country level. We also talked about the joint sector reviews. We had very rich sets of parallel sessions, a good summary and reporting back from our colleagues from the notes. So I will not say much about that, but just to mention a couple of points that came out, which I think are really important for us to pay attention to. We know what the ReSAKSS are trying to achieve. Creating the dynamism at the country level to use the local centers of expertise in a much more strategic way. Link it to the demand that Dr. Badiane described here, the data, the analytics that feed into the decision-making process. Organizing it, leverage to extend existing investment by governments into the faculty of economics, the statistics, the planning units, diagnostic centers, the think tanks. There's so much that our governments are spending at the country level in those systems. How can you mobilize it and then link it with the demand that Dr. Abebe described at the country? That is really what the center is trying to do. And for that to happen, they have to be there for the broader agenda. They have to be able to respond to the broader agenda. And therefore, one of the issues that came from the president is really important. And I would like our colleagues from the individual countries right here who are hosting the ReSAKSS, who are supporting the ReSAKSS, to take note of one of the conclusions from the panel session. The governance structure, the governance nature of the ReSAKSS matters. If the ReSAKSS becomes a pilot project, a petty project, or just a specific activity in the Department of Planning, in the M&A unit, or even in the ministry, serving only their needs, it will have missed the opportunity of creating the conditions to support evidence-based policy, to support review processes, to inform policy making. So have an inclusive governance structure, get the non-state actors in there, get the different ministries in there, get the private sector in there, to exchange on the nature of the work of the ReSAKSS, its output, the use of it, and it has not just implication for the effectiveness of the ReSAKSS. It is important for the legitimacy and, yes, for the independence of the ReSAKSS. If the ReSAKSS is too closely identified with the ministry, it limits what it can say and what it can do. If it is seen as a platform that is broadly embraced by a broader set of stakeholder groups, it's freer to express itself. It can publish its findings the way they are, it can get its messages the way they are. So it protects the ministry itself. So the broader the governance structure it is, and that's really, really important. Dr. Abebe and others and our notes coordinators talked about the importance of mobilizing existing expertise in the country. There may be thousands of people in the world and others, and we can provide some support, but policy making is a daily business. The IFPRIs of the world can come in maybe every 6 months or every year, things like that. We will not achieve the part of policy that we want unless local centers of expertise are in the middle of it. The hope is that ReSAKSS will be able to go out, engage with those centers of expertise from your market economics all the way to your independent think tanks. Bring them on board, link them to an agenda that they can work on to support your countries. And that will take really a ReSAKSS node, that is, yes, hosted by the ministry, but that is owned more broadly, that can mobilize your centers of expertise. Then create, therefore, the partnership possibilities for the IFPRIs and others of the world, but they will be there to respond on a daily basis to many of the questions that are evolving. Somebody said the ReSAKSS is relevant, it will be funded. Sustainability will not be an issue. The best way to make the ReSAKSS relevant is to plug the ReSAKSS agenda right in the middle of the policy debate, the dialogue and the review process in the countries. If it is a sector working group, that is the place for dialogue, the ReSAKSS is right in there. If that platform doesn't exist, the ReSAKSS has to go out, facilitate stakeholders to set up such a platform. But it's extremely important. Those three things really will define the success and the impact and the sustainability of the ReSAKSS. Governance, active networking of local centers of expertise, and linking its work to the dialogue process in the country. So we look forward to working with you doing that, and we trust that many of us here who are hosting those sites will continue to exchange with the ReSAKSS nodes, and we'll continue to look at the outcomes of the parallel sessions and how they would like to work on that. Then the next item is on the GSR. Every country is doing some type of review, which is good. But just I just said, we cannot be satisfied with the progress that we're making. Same way, we cannot be satisfied just for doing something. We want to do it the best way possible, just because of the time we lost, because of the huge backlog we have in terms of improving the livelihoods of our people. So the GSR asset was about how do we improve, make the best review process possible, given the institutional realities of the individual countries. So the criteria of comprehensiveness as defined and discussed in the parallel session, the criteria of inclusivity, robustness of the analysis, those are extremely important. So whoever was doing one set of the review and see the opportunity to expand and align with this, I think that is something quite important to do. There was a mention of the importance of timing with the budget cycle. There was an issue that we have to look forward to some more leadership from the African Union Commission and the economic communities, but also among the governments, to bring the donor agencies into the GSR process. Not just as an observer, not just as somebody to review the outcomes, but also partners that submit their programs to the review process. At the end of the day, they're working for the same goal that the governments do. The need for alignment, verification, coordination, fit, and support, all those things are extremely important. So we do hope that that is going to happen. It started this year during the assessment and the piloting, but we need more of that. So we are happy to have noticed that there has been some initial positive follow-up to the GSR assessments. Examples of Malawi, examples of Mozambique, also we got from Burkina Faso and Senegal, in fact. There has been something happening after the GSR assessment, and countries are willing to learn from it what they need to do. Way forward now, what they asked me to talk about. We have worked hard for the last year with our partners in the countries, to assess the capacities for the ReSAKSS. So we did 14 country needs assessment. We facilitated because they were led by the countries. Those are ready. I think they may have been on the conference site. So we'll work to disseminate them a little bit more and see how they can generate some action on the ground in those countries where the ReSAKSS are going to be established, but also in those where the assessment has been made and there was not yet a plan to set up the ReSAKSS platform. We also would like to synthesize the lessons from the GSR assessment. The reports are country-specific, help the countries with the assessment of the GSR in place, but there are many more countries that could learn from it. So we synthesize that report in addition to disseminating the GSR to spread the lessons and help those countries that could benefit from those lessons. We will be working with the African Commission and NPCA and other partners on finalizing the results framework. in particular adjusting the indicator set so that it aligns with the needs of Malabo and the results framework. We look forward within the ReSAKSS team to achieve a goal of always high, which is an under 12 benchmark, meaning that the data that will be available on our website and our reports to track the indicators will not be older than 12 months. Okay. We've started this year, you will see that public expenditure data is from 2013. So starting next year, we don't take responsibility for all the data here, but the indicators that you will have assigned to us, they will not be older than 1 year. And we'll look forward to it realizing next year. We will work with the countries where we had a ESI assessment on follow-up, and we'll look forward to expanding it to more countries. We will have signed, as what we said, 12 agreements for the establishment of the ReSAKSS platforms. We will work on the organization, and we look forward to adding some more ReSAKSS platform as funding at the country becomes available. And finally, the next annual Trends and Outlook report will be presented at the next annual conference, and the topic for that, and then again we've been lucky, when we decided 4 years ago on the topics up to 2015, we had no clue that trade is going to be so important in Malabo. But also we didn't know that Malabo is going to be so ambitious in terms of transformation of Africa. So the topic for next year is towards a middle income Africa. Visioning how Africa can transform itself to a middle income environment in the next 2-3 decades. What changes need to take place? What are the trends that need to be bent? Is they bendable? What are the kinds of agendas that can be put in place? What capacities, what investment priorities, so that in 2-3 decades from now, we will achieve that goal for our people. So we will, during that process, towards the next conference, look at what happened over the last 20 years. Why the progress? How the progress? Where are the factors? And how can those be scaled up and scaled out? So it's going to be a learning journey. So we look forward to the next conference and hope that you will be part of the journey. Madam Commissioner, Directors of CG, dear colleagues from the communities and partners from the countryside here, thank you all for coming. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you to the AUC for the leadership. And to everyone here in the room, there's really something historical about this. I think that the sense of excitement, of hope, of achievement has existed only once in the history of Africa. It was around independence. When those who were fighting for independence and who were leading the First Nations were very hopeful that they were creating something. It was a new dawn. I think we're back there. All the indicators pointing forward, our leadership taking a responsibility and having such magnificent partnership around, it's a very exciting moment. We're happy and grateful to be part of that, and we thank everybody who's here. Please seize that moment and be part of the excitement. Thank you very much.